Hello and welcome to another edition of Sun Dragon Tips and Tricks. I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in downtown Brevard, North Carolina. And today I thought we would take a break from doing our cast on and bind off series and talk about something that came up in our Dear Becky and Lizzie this past week, which was a question about more counting rows when you're changing colors, when you're doing stripes like this. Does this count? And yes, it does. I've almost finished one row of this cream. But it made me think about when you are changing colors, when you get to the row change here, how to do it without creating what's called a jog, which is where the colors kind of go like they don't fit together right. And there's a few ways to fool the eye when it comes to that. And so I thought we would take a look at those today. So we're going to look at two different methods when you're creating stripes of different colors, multiple rows for those stripes, how to hide where you have changed color so it's not as noticeable. It's called a jogless join. So let's get to it. As I just mentioned, jogless join is what we are doing today. When you're knitting in the round with stripes of different colors. And these are mostly, I'm addressing stripes that are multiple rows high. Multiple row stripes. There's a whole different thing if you're doing single stripes. That may be another video. Where you change the color can create a jog. It's where colors do not line up. That's a jog. We'll show you over here in just a second. So there's two different ways that you can hide this. And each one is not perfect, but it'll cover up a lot. And from a distance, you won't be able to see it. Method 1. Now I should mention, these both happen on the second round of your new color. So you knit all the way around with your new color. When you start your second round, the first method is simply slip the first stitch. Believe it or not, that will hide a lot of the jog. Another method, again, it's on the second round of your new color. You're going to take the stitch that's hanging below the first stitch of your needle, the one that's hanging below, lift it up onto the needle and knit them together. May sound more complicated than the first one, but maybe less noticeable depending on how many rows of knitting you're doing. So let's take a look at what we're talking about here. Here's an example of a bunch of knit stitches. And right here is either the end of the row or the beginning of the next row. When you're knitting in the round, it actually is somewhat like a spiral, but you'll have a stitch marker marking that, and you'll see differences only when you're changing colors. If you're just knitting in a circle with one color, it will all look the same. If you're changing colors, however, let's say I've got purple and blue here. Let's say I did a row of blue and another row of blue, so I kept the same color for another round. And when I come back, when I finish my round right here, I'm going to switch to my purple. And start knitting with my purple. Now I may not see this at first, but the further away I get from this section, the more I might notice what happened. Here's the end of my round. And I continue with my new color. Now, as you can see, that's the jog right there. That's the spot where it looks, we have a jog in color. Now, both of the methods that we're going to use involve this stitch right here and what you do with that stitch. So both of the methods that I mentioned involve this one stitch. The first stitch of your first round of color, when you come back to do your second round, you are either, with method 1, you are going to slip it, which means it becomes, these two stitches become one. So it shoves this stitch up to this row to cling them together, which kind of erases that stitch and makes this part seem more like it goes smoothly. The other method was about, before you knit this stitch, this one right here, you pull the stitch below it, which is the opposite color, up to it and knit it together, which again pulls the blue up and makes it look like the blue is continuous. Both of them have a different way of kind of smushing this stitch with either the one above, the row above, or pulling the row below up to it, so that there can be what looks like a continuous line. And I'm going to color code the methods I mentioned on the other side with the orange and the yellow so that we can kind of see all these together in the final picture. So let's take a look, in at least drawing form, of what's going on here. This is method 1. This is our orange method. This is where we're going to slip a stitch. So let's get this color coded. This is the end of our first row of purple. So we have knit purple all the way around. So we have purple on our needles, but everything below our needles is blue. We could even say we've got 2 rows here. And if we continue, we're going to have a jog. We're going to suddenly start having 2 rows of purple over here, but there's still only 1 over here. There will be a jog. The first way to keep this a little more hidden is to take this very first stitch and simply slip it over here. And keep knitting. And believe it or not, it will make it feel like this row and this row will match more instead of being sunk down below. These will be more continuous. The other method, same situation. We have all purple going around, and we're about to add our second row of purple on top of the blue. This was our green method. We want to take this blue stitch right here, and you want to take this leg and bring it up here. Bring it up onto the needle. What it will look like and make that a little clearer. It's going to come up. What it will look like is that we have 2 strands up on the needle, one of each color, And they'll be the right legs of both of our stitches. So we have brought this stitch up, and now we need to knit them together. All right, as clear as I can make it. Clear as mud, right? You lift your blue stitch up and you knit the blue and the purple. You knit them together. So method 1 and method 2, let's see what they look like on real yarn and see if it helps it click. So here are my 2 colors as I come up to the beginning of my round. And if I finish this, I'm at the end of my first round. I'm just gonna tighten that up a little bit. The end of my first round with the cream. Now, I did a regular just change colors down here. Don't know if you can see that, but this is what we're talking about with the jog. It looks like, I mean, I can fiddle it, but it looks like there's a definite spot where it just changes color. So I'm going to move my marker. And the first method was simply to slip the first stitch and continue knitting. I'm going to do a few stitches so we can go back and look. What that does is it kind of merges my first stitch in with my second row. If I pull down, we can see that there's more happening here, but it doesn't quite look, this still looks pretty level. We've managed to hide the spot where it happened. I'm going to knit a few more rows away from it so we can start trying a different join. I'm back to the beginning of my round. After 2 rows, I'm just going to keep knitting. So there's a few rows of color. You can still see something over here, but it's not at the place where I'm switching colors, and it's not as noticeable. You are smushing this stitch, so it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to look more even altogether. Now let's try with my other color, which I did not cut. I'm just going to gently pull up since I'm not going too many rows away. Let's try the other join. And we might be able to see the other one even more clearly the further away it gets from the needles. So I'm going to speed up the video here until I get around this row. All right, coming up to this row, the other thing we can do when we change colors is we can lift this stitch onto our left needle, and I would just tuck it under like that or lift it up. and then knit these two together. And then keep going. As I come back to the beginning of the row, I'm just going to keep going. And what that did is it pulled the stitch up to where the end of the previous row was. Let me get a little further away from it and we'll take a look at both of them. Okay, so sliding it over to look at it away from the needles, either one, if you know what you're looking for, you can see with the slip stitch, you can see it grow over here. With the knit two together, you can see this one. Either way, one of them is going to look a little bigger. And since I did them back to back, this area here looks a little bit big because both of these have done something big. But switching from this color to this color, I slipped a stitch. And switching from this color to this color, I lifted one up. I lifted this stitch up and knit them together. You can see how it makes the line look a little straighter than if we go back down here and see how this line, if we follow it straight, we see it goes right to the next color. So following right here, this is a jog. If we don't do anything, we get a jog right here. If we slip the first stitch, this is what it looks like. And if we lift the stitch up, that's what it looks like. Either one of these two methods, I think, has a pretty good level of success. Thanks for coming along on the ride to see what you can do for different ways to mask when you change colors for knitting in the round. Jogless join. I'm using that on my striped sweater right now, which I would show y'all, but my cat's sleeping on it. And I have 2 stripes of one color and 10 of another. And he's very comfortable, and when Avi is comfortable, I don't mess with him. I would say if you are doing a big chunk of color and then a single stripe, the slip stitch method is probably better for that single stripe. Lifting the color underneath, which kind of pulls it up, is going to cause more problems than it's going to solve. But I would say just try them out. See which one you like better. I'm using the slip stitch method on my sweater. I may or may not have mentioned that. I can't remember. And for just the two rows before switching colors, I like how it looks. And so I'm just being consistent with it. You try them out, see which one works better for you. And then you have found a way to hide your joins when you're switching colors. I would hope you've subscribed, and if not, please consider subscribing or giving me a thumbs up or all those good things. Let me know what you want to see a video on, and I'll see if I can make it happen. Place questions in the comments. Reach out to me. I do online Zoom lessons. I also do lessons outside my shop with masks right now, but we are booked up for about a month. So, I hope to see you in the future here so you can learn some more stuff and keep crafting with joy and confidence. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Look here. I tried to organize my knitting bag, or at least start, and look who is enjoying one of my projects being on the bed. Oh, that is a comfy kitty. Guess I'm not working on that right now.